Good evening now, everyone. It is May 24th, 2019. I know it's been a while since this has happened, but I think we need to be reminded of some of the things that's happened here over the course of the last 7, 8 years, simply so we don't forget about these things. And this is one of them. FEMA camps horrifying reality, suicide confession, federal prisoners to be gassed to death. Now, Florida Marquis, a few months back, he made a video talking about how prisoners were going to be one of the biggest threats and shit hit the fan because they'll be let go. And that the gas thing was BS, basically. But I disagree for a number of reasons. But the suicide letter from the ICE agent who committed suicide, we'll get into it, okay? So, in quotes here, every federal prison has been outfitted with lethal gas systems. When things go bad, all prisoners in all prisons will be placed in their cells on lockdown. Now, I think they mean federal prisons, but I don't know for sure. Prison staff will depart the facility, and a certain designated individual will trigger a lethal gas system. All federal prisoners, regardless of their crime or their sentence, will be gassed to death in their cells. Once the gas clears, the dead will be removed, and the prisons will then be used to house citizens who fight against the federal onslaught. And I think the federal onslaught is going to come under Donald Trump. I could be wrong, though. Could be wrong. FEMA camps, as well as FEMA camps as death camps for American citizens, is just too incomprehensible. But after writing a lengthy suicide note exposing these terrifying plans the government has for the American people, a U.S. Customs agent, Customs, not ICE, walked onto a pier in New York City and blew his brains out. FEMA, like other branches of this government, will quickly cover up any details which anyone can begin to trace back to the truth of the fact, sources, and so forth. Sources inside the New York City Police Department revealed to Superstation 95 the contents of a suicide note found on the body, and they are terrifying. Well, at least one maybe cop out there did the right thing, right? The note, which was written over the course of a full week in advance, outlines why the officer chose to shoot himself. And by the way, I won't shoot myself, people, okay? Just so you know that. I don't have any opinion on suicide. Some people think it's cowardly. I don't think it is, because really, to continue on in this world, you pretty much know what to expect. You can pretty much rely on your routine until shit hits the fan, that is, or there's a financial collapse or something. But in killing yourself, you're jumping into the ultimate unknown. So I don't think people who commit suicide are cowardly. It really takes a lot of bravery to jump into the abyss. In quotes, the America I grew up in and cherished has been murdered by its own federal FEMA camp government. Our Constitution has become meaningless, and our laws politicized so badly they are no longer enforced except for political purposes, the note said. In quotes again, our elected officials are, to a person, utterly corrupt and completely devoid of any love or respect for the country which pays them. To them, everything is about getting and keeping power, and making illicit money from backroom deals. I was hired to enforce the law, to capture and deport people who come to this country against our laws. But now, if I dare do that, I face being suspended or fired because our president refuses to faithfully execute the duties of his office. And of course, this was when Barack Obama was the president. Instead, I come to work each day and collect a paycheck twice a month for intentionally doing little to nothing. I cannot and will not be party to this fraud, to this usurping of the law, or to the despicable politicians betraying our nation. Now, let me stop right there. This person obviously values law and order a whole lot, but the deal with this is law and order is that it's always corrupted. You can't show me one single instance of in history of a non-corrupt government, and that includes those who enforce the law, the soldiers, all of it, right? The 42-year-old U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement deportation officer shot himself with a .40 caliber service pistol inside Pier 40 in Hudson River Park at around 11 a.m. A source at the scene described how the officer calmly walked into the park, took out his pistol, and shot himself in the head. He worked as a U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement deportation officer, and his officers were not far from the scene of the shooting. This agent also knew the truth about FEMA camps. He was rushed to the hospital, but doctors were unable to save him. ICE released a statement which read, "Tragically, a U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement deportation officer from the New York field office suffered a self-inflicted gunshot wound and has passed away." It added, "The agency is not releasing further details pending notification of the officer's next of kin." The news of the agent's apparent suicide was first reported by New York City park advocates. Jeffrey Croft reported an unidentified source as saying, "It was heartbreaking. Croft said there were visitors in the park just a few feet away from the shooting scene. Can you imagine just being there and watching some dude just randomly pull out their pistol and shoot themselves in the head? It would be quite a trip. Quite a trip. One source told the Daily Mail's Alexandra Genova that the agent walked calmly into the park, took out and shot himself. We already know this. The agent worked at the field office in Lower Manhattan, just blocks away from his death. In the note, the officer revealed what he claims are terrifying plans the feds have been finalizing. If the American people knew what this government is planning, they would rise up and overthrow it. If I or anyone else in the federal government revealed what is coming, we would be killed anyway. So now I will reveal what I know. We in federal law enforcement have been drilling for several years to control riots and uprisings from a coming financial collapse and widespread bank failures. And look, this could very easily happen this year, okay? These bank failures and financial collapse. Very easily. I'm not saying it is, but it can easily happen. Just like white people being targeted throughout the summer. I'm pretty sure that that's going to happen. Okay, the drills involve life-size images of American men, even women and children, whom we are told to shoot for practice and to get used to it. And that's what those targets were about. I know a lot of you remember this. We have been told that the economy is terminally ill and we will fail in 2016. Well, it's been three more years, right? 2019, halfway through, almost. We are also told the banks are all insolvent and the FDIC doesn't have nearly enough funds to bail out depositors. We are told these events are unavoidable, and it is imperative that the government survive when people rise up over this. I think the government's overestimating the people. There may be some of us that do, but the masses are going to be cowering. When the collapse takes place, detention camps created under FEMA Rex 84 program in the 1980s to house illegal aliens whom we were going to deport will instead be used to imprison American citizens whom the government feels constitutes a threat. American citizens will be rounded up without warrants and imprisoned without trial for God knows how long. The note goes on to talk about the state-level National Guard being disarmed by the feds and over 1 billion rounds of ammunition purchased by the feds and the military over deployed and being shrunk. Again, in quotes from the note, apparently. The government knows the military will rise up to stop this, so our military is being deployed overseas, intentionally involved in foreign fights, and deliberately shrunk in size so they cannot be here to help Americans. And this may be one of the reasons why they're trying to get the troops over there to the Middle East so desperately. Which, by the way, they're sending more troops over there to the Middle East, over there by Iran, even though Iran doesn't really pose an actual threat to us. Just like Iraq, right? So, this is why certain ammunition and weaponry has been removed from state-level National Guard armories, and over 1 billion rounds of hollow point ammunition has been bought by the federal government. The states themselves have been disarmed of military-grade firepower so they cannot defend themselves from the federal activities. This is also why local police departments have been militarized and FEMA mall camp provided with armored vehicles and weapons of war. In quotes again from this note, apparently. When the inevitable collapse begins to take place, electric power to the entire country will be shut off, as will all forms of communication. All banks will be immediately closed, and no one will be able to get any money because all ATMs will be offline. Credit, debit, and EBT cards will not function. Anyone without cash will have no way to get any. The emergency alert system will be used to take over all broadcast stations and tell the public this is a result of a cyber attack. And while the American people patiently await things to get back to normal, the government will unleash roundups of citizens they deem militants or dangerous. With all civilian communications out and all TV and radio stations taken over by the emergency alert system, by the time word spreads of what is taking place, the government will already have the upper hand. The note goes on to say into a wide array of specific plans, and does so in extremely specific detail about what the feds are allegedly planning. For instance, it talks about federal prisons. Every federal prison has been outfitted with lethal gas systems. When things go bad, all prisoners in all prisons will be placed in their cells on lockdown. Prison staff will depart the facility, and a certain designated person will trigger the lethal gas system. And again, it just repeats what it repeated or said earlier. The note makes mention about priests, rabbis, and clerics from various religious denominations having been recruited and trained to quell resistance. In quotes from the note again. So intent is the government to succeed. They have recruited priests, rabbis, and clerics from various religions to quote appropriate scriptures about obeying government, that they are being trained to tell people not to fight back, and their best hope is to pray. I'm gonna tell you right now, your best hope isn't to pray, okay? It just isn't. I'm gonna be honest with you here. I have prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed for things to change in my own personal life, and not a single prayer, as far as I can tell, has been answered. Maybe it's because I'm satanic, though. Who knows? And honestly, the only thing that's ever gotten me anything is action. So, Executive Order 13603, the suicide note goes into great lengths about Executive Order 13603, signed by President Obama on March 16th, 2012. The note details Executive Order 1603 about National Defense Resources Preparedness. And we know about this, but I'm going to go ahead and go over it again. We need to keep all this stuff in mind. As far as I know, Donald Trump has not stricken this or overturned it. As far as I know, he signed the NDAA again. So, as much as I would like to believe that something like this wouldn't happen under him, I'm very skeptical, okay? So, for shits and giggles here, this executive order, National Defense Resources Preparedness Act, this 10-page document is a blueprint for a federal takeover of the economy. Specifically, Obama's plan involves seizing control of all commodities and products that are capable of being ingested by either human beings or animals, all forms of energy, all forms of civil transportation, all usable water from all sources, health resources, drugs, biological products, medical devices, materials, facilities, health supplies, services, and equipment, forced labor, or induction, as the executive order delicately refers to military conscription. And I read the executive order on my own channel in full, pretty much, and it does say these things. Federal officials would use regulations to prioritize and allocate resources. This executive order from the government printing office website, and sure enough, everything contained in the officer's suicide note about this executive order is true, and I've confirmed this myself. Much of this language has appeared in national security executive orders that previous presidents have issued, but more than previous national security executive orders, Obama's 13603 seems to describe a potentially totalitarian regime obsessed with control obsessed with control over everything. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. This room is like fucking 100 degrees, and I have the windows open. I'm not letting my family off the hook and throwing the air conditioner on just yet. I'm gonna let them feel the heat for a little bit. Obama's executive order makes no effort to justify the destruction of liberty, no effort to explain how amassing totalitarian control would enable government to deal effectively with cyber sabotage, suicide bombings, chemical warfare, nuclear missiles, or other possible threats. There's nothing in the Executive Order 13603 about upholding the Constitution or protecting the civil liberties. In what circumstances, one might ask, would a president try to carry out this audacious plan? Executive Order 13603 says, with ominous ambiguity, during the full spectrum of emergencies. The suicide note touches on the subject of preppers. We in federal law enforcement have also been told that the government has a full database of all so-called preppers. Those people will be dealt with first by armed federal agents coming to take their guns, then their food stocks, so food can be redistributed as the government sees fit. And again, I've read that on my old channel. If the dead officer's claims about an unavoidable economic and banking collapse are true, would it then follow that the executive order put in place by Obama might be activated? Would all of us find ourselves in forced labor while the government takes our food and redistributes it under the executive order's paragraphs about allocating resources? They say this is terrifying stuff. I don't think it is. So, this stuff has not gone away, okay? And from what I can see with the economy, it's not too far out of the realm of possibilities that it collapses very soon. It probably won't very soon, but it will. As they said, it is unavoidable. The Federal Reserve and other central banks has used every tool they have, and they've run out of tools. Anyway, I thought I'd reshare this with you all because it's something we cannot forget about. It's something that people need to be reminded of. Just like the Gray State director, Crowley, what was his first name? See, now I've even forgot his name. That's bad. That's bad. Now I'm going to have to look that up and do a video on him just so we don't forget about him. He made the ultimate sacrifice to try to get the truth out. He and his family were murdered in cold blood. Anyway, again, I hope everyone has a great evening. If you like my content, please do share, thumbs up, subscribe. I have PayPal links and Discord links below. Till next time, kill the state before the state kills you.